All right, Investor Central. What I wanted to do today was go over a bit of our STAX AI. What you see here is our data sheet and our back testing of all the STAX AI shouted out or prints that we have through the beginning of initial release for us to monitor. Now, keep in mind, what that does mean is I do have a couple of these from October and November, which were not actually available for the public to see. This was for us to back test. December was when we first had the release of STAX AI. So what you'll see here is STAX. What we have on the right side are our overall hit rates. October was 6 for 6, but keep in mind we started on October 23rd, so it was about just the last week of STAX AI. November, we had 13 out of 14. What I will talk about today is how I'm calculating these and how you may see a few extra misses in the middle. But again, what we want to make sure we understand is the full duration of these options contracts and what they end up hitting. And then December, what we had was 11 out of 12, a 91.67 rate. We do also have January now for us to view. Overall, what we have down here for us are 92.9% hit rate and an average in terms of the rise in options prices, an average of 98.14%. January's average was only 29.26, but I do want to point out January still has a lot of these options in which they do have much, much more time to go through. So those could still go much higher. We'll keep those and update you guys as those go. Now, how do I want to read this? Okay. Well, ultimately, what I've done with this data sheet is that I've updated them on certain dates. So, for example, 12/27/23 was the first, was the end of last year, 2023. Keep in mind today it is February 5th, Monday, and this was finished up or the last days of these options contracts that I've updated was from last Friday. So as of the end of December, what we have here are all of the prints and whether or not they were wins or misses on that date. So on that day, what you can imagine is that the majority of these, you may notice in November, out of our 14 in November, there were 3 misses, NVIDIA, Apple, and PDD. In December, what we have here is we have 1 Apple print that was a miss. Now, how do I want to read this? Well, what we also want to do is just because it was a miss on that date doesn't mean that it had higher values or returns on those options as well. So what I did is through February 2nd, okay, so last Friday was the last update of this. What I did is I double checked these prints to see if those options contracts did go higher at some point, and if they did, how high did they go? What that does constitute for us is that it was a win. And what you may see here, for example, NVIDIA, they did purchase quite a bit of time over here. And while it was a miss back in December, it was down a few dollars. Now, if you consider and how NVIDIA's jumped up quite a bit, now is looking at about 100% return on those options contracts. One thing that I do want to point out here, what that was actually pretty impressive, was this PSX, where they purchased at $1.03. In the end of December was already showing a 400% return. And as of last Friday, we're looking at that as a 10xer, which is pretty ridiculous. So anything that is in orange that you'll notice are updated for 2/2/24. What I do also want to make sure that I point out in here too is that further down on the left, I did have a few of these that I left in light green. What light green basically means for us is the fact that these returns on those options contracts were so fairly minimal. It did still show that it moved, it still did profit, but I wouldn't really necessarily consider them to be full wins in those situations. However, if you are to go back and double check on those specific prints, as of now, or as of last Friday, they have gone up quite a bit more. So those did become wins. Ultimately, our main misses, there was a PDD here in November, and we still have an Apple that is a miss right now. But what I do want to point out with this for Apple and the fact that these are still on our on our Stacks AI data sheet data table shows that they actually still are active. So it does still mean that there is time for this Apple print to become positive, to become a winner down the line. The very right column you may notice is actually our spot check. If they did end up missing, one thing I wanted to double check was, all of these so far are calls. Did they end up going higher? And if they did, how much did the equity itself go up in terms of the percentage or in terms of the dollar value? And so in terms of our spot check, I understand it's not exactly the best measure because in the end, these are options contracts and options are calculated in a different manner. But our win rate for our spot check is actually fairly high. It's about 41 out of 42. But I do understand it can be a little bit misleading in that sense. But if you did use Stacks AI to purchase the equity, the only one that really went down or was lower at that in terms of a miss is just going to be this Tesla print down over here. So with that being said, you can see what our hit rates are on the right. Hit rate for 2023 was a 93.75%. Hit rate so far for January of 2024, 9 out of 10. And the overall of all of our Stacks AI information that we have shown here is a 92.9%. One thing I do want to point out, just because today, Monday, a few prints did come in, I do have down on the very bottom here is our prints for February. February, as of these two, the Meta and Microsoft prints showed up actually only on last Friday, only had a day, and you can see that the values have barely moved, if anything. So these, I want to make sure you take with a grain of salt. The 50% here isn't a true accurate representation of what these still have time to do. And as well, you may actually notice here the expiration dates that I've put on the left here. They actually bought quite some time, the end of 2025 and 2026, which means that they do have well over 23 to 24 months. The Microsoft print actually has almost 3 full years before that one would expire. So those are very important for us to take a look at. Quick little notes as well. We do have a few of these that have expired since the prints were made. But one thing to keep in mind with those particular ones is the fact that they were all winners. They all ended up in the money, all ended up with intrinsic value for those options contracts, which is very nice to see. In the past, what we do have are only a few of these since January or since last October that have expired. So a lot of these are actually still active. What I plan to do as we continue is to update these on a monthly basis. So the next update you will see will be at the end of February. In terms of where these ended up, where the highs were, what the hit rate and what the average return was for each of these contracts. And again, these are our receipts for Stacks AI. Those that have Stacks AI subscription, feel free to match these up and go look back as to what is still active in our software. These are the ones that I've done my best to update for you. If there are any discrepancies in terms of options, prices, things like that, please bring them up to me. I'd like to make sure that my data here is as accurate as possible for you guys to be able to review. With that being said, this is Eric here with Stacks AI. I'm very excited, very passionate to be able to show you guys how accurate, how great of a software it is that we've put together. We've been working on this for over 3 to 4 years now. Went through countless different possibilities of developers, but now with what we've been able to put together, our receipts are here. It's very important for us to share with you guys here that our high hit rate, high average return is being shown with the data and with the Stacks algorithm that we've put together. If you do have any questions, feel free to message us at help@investorcentral.com. We're happy to help you guys out. If you have any questions, be sure to send them out so we can chat with you guys and help you understand what it is that you're seeing here. With that being said, this is Eric signing out. See you guys in the next one.